Hey everybody, this is Steve from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Now, before we get started, I want to make a public apology. I made a huge mistake in last week's reviews. For the new Black Panther book, I said Al Ewing, and it was actually Eve Ewing that wrote the book. So I really want to apologize to Eve. Thank one of the comments in last week's that pointed out my mistake. It was just I when I was writing the credits, I saw Ewing and I just assumed it was Al. That was a huge mistake on my part. I'll try to be a little more careful in the future. But apologies to Eve. She did a really good job on that first issue. Lots of exposition, but it was good start for the book, I think. So apologies to her, and hopefully we'll hopefully not. As far as I know, it's my first huge mistake. I'm sure there's been a lot of little mistakes over the doing these reviews, but we try to do I try to do my best. This week's actually a pretty good size, not too bad of a week. We changed the books, so we have Grant Morrison, Kid Eternity, that's really amazing. We have A Sea of Love, which is really, it's a great foreign book, but it has no dialogue. It's beautiful, great story. Gorgeous artwork. I can't believe they made an omnibus, and I'm glad that they did. The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which is absolutely one of my favorite books. We have Ed Brubaker's Pulp, which is absolutely amazing. Kent State, which is amazing. Account of the tragedy of Kent State. Then we have this is one of the original trade paperbacks of Sandman Mystery Theater that had been out of print for like a long time. They did do a compendium recently of the first part of the series, so hopefully they'll do another one and finish the story. With great book, absolutely wonderful book. And then one of my favorites, Shit My President Said, which is Shannon Wheeler's doing cartoons to Donald Trump's tweets that were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that shit. And yes, he did. And there's the tweets to prove it, and the wild cartoons that Shannon drew to go with it. So definitely those are part of my collection, and always anything pretty much in my collection is always recommended. So let's get to the new books this week. First up, we have Ultimates #1, written by Jonathan Hickman, with pencils by Brian Hitch, and inks by Andrew Curry. So the basic story is, this is like, basically the Ultimates characters from years ago. It starts off that there's a clone of Reed Richards that has gotten loose from prison and is creating some sort of machine. And I will say, without giving too much away, it's a time travel machine to change time. So that's the basic premise here. Here's the thing. Ultimately, it was kind of fun for what it was. It's superheroes, and it's kind of somewhat alternate versions of Marvel characters. The really big thing is, and yes, I get it's a double-size issue, but it's a double-sized issue that's $10. And I think the problem here, it's enjoyable, but is it enjoyable for $10? And quite honestly, I don't think it's worth $10. I'm not saying that the quality of the book is bad. I just don't think it's worth $10, especially when DC does a lot of those specials that are like, has like maybe 8 to 10 stories for $10. And once again, not all of those are always a good deal, but this is pretty pricey for what it is. And quite honestly, with the fact that a trade will come out that will be, maybe $25-$30. Yeah, I can't recommend it because of the price. I certainly don't think it was bad. It's a fun little story. It was just superhero stuff, and then that's fine. But for $10, it's not worth it for $10 in that respect. Next up, we have Wonder Woman 800, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, for the main story, with artwork, and there's a bunch, Joelle Jones, Athea Martinez, Mark Morales, Nick Robles, Todd Knock, Skylar Partridge, Collie Hamner, and Jen Bartel. And then there's a backup story that's leads into the new Wonder Woman starting in September. That's written by Tom King and with artwork by Daniel Sampry. So with the main story, this is the conclusion of Clunan and Conrad's run, which is, as with any, writing team that's been on the book for a while, there's been highs and there's been lows, but I really have to give them both props that, they kind of kept the Wonder Woman flame alive. Like I said, when they've had some really good stories throughout the years that they've been on the book. I definitely give them props because Wonder Woman is a really tough book to write. I think they've done overall an admirable and a good job on the book. And so basically what it is Diana is kind of in a coma on Theraschema, kind of going through her life and the people that she's met along the way to basically they're encouraging her that, she is still, Wonder Woman. She is still, what the hope and dreams of Theraschema is. And it was a nice conclusion to their, final story arc. And, the artwork, I was really happy to see, Joelle Jones back doing, Flores, her interpretation of Wonder Girl. Overall, the artworks are really nice. I mean, each artist brings their own, style in there. The really interesting thing is the backup story, which is a lead into the new, Wonder Woman book. Tom King's taking over the book, and what it is, it's actually not Wonder Woman. It's Lizzie, who is the current Wonder Girl, and it's called Trinity because it's her, Damian as doing being Batman, and then John Kent being Superman, and it's about them. Kind of not so much overcoming. They go to this cave where they have task, and they have to overcome their task. And what it is Lizzie's task is that there's somebody in that prison that has some secret that she is trying to find out. So it'll be interesting. It's definitely like a prelude to the Wonder Woman book. It's an interesting story. Once again, prelude, so it's hard to say. But I really like Sam Pre's art, and he's going to be the regular artist on the Wonder Woman book. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's worth checking. I think it's worth buying. There's a lot of great covers. I went with the Mike Allred cover, but there's a lot of wonderful covers for this, kind of anniversary issue. And once again, I do like the fact that DC is doing little, kind of cheaper, anniversary issues. This one's only $7 compared to like, $10 for a lot of the oversized ones. But I think it's worth checking out, especially for the the prelude to the new Wonder Woman series that's going to kick off in September. Next up, we have Godzilla Here There Be Dragons, #1. Written by Frank Terry with artwork by Inka Miranda. So this is actually set in 1556. So it's, there's pirates and stuff like that. So the basic story is that there's a pirate that's in jail, and he's telling the story of how he was on a ship, a pirate ship that had captured, gold and stuff, and they wanted to, hide it, and they ended up on Monster Island. And so that's leads up to the premise. You only see Godzilla at the end of the issue, but so going forward, you'll see them on Monster Island. Once again, it's a basic Godzilla premise. Okay, but so-and-so is going to meet Godzilla, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. But I actually like what Terry's done here is, set it in a different time period. And that's pretty fascinating. It's like I said, it's a basic Godzilla story. I just think it's got a nice twist because of the period that it's set in. And I'm intrigued to see where he's going to take it. Miranda's artwork's really nice. It's a really nice looking Godzilla book, and I really like. Once again, it's trying to be different, but still Godzilla, and I think in that case, they've done a really nice job there. Next up, we have All Eight Eyes, #3, written by Steve Fox with artwork by Piotr Kowalski. So Reynolds has been, looking for these spiders, and we learn in this issue how he came about to this whole thing. What it was is, he was just an average Joe with a wife and a kid, and he comes home and he finds his wife's been attacked, and his child has been killed by this giant spider, and so he basically kind of he gets away. He loses it basically, and he finds, as he's homeless and gone nuts because of this spider. The reason he's called Reynolds is he found a shirt that said Reynolds on it. And so Vinny is basically, because they're battling this spider, because basically Reynolds trying to find the spider that killed his family. That's the key. And he thought that this one in this last issue was it, but it was not. But Vinny is kind of bringing him back to humanity, and it was really a neat story twist. And I think I really like the fact that we in this issue we learn about Reynolds and how he became this spider hunter. I'm really digging this book. It's a really neat horror book, and I have arachnophobia, so I hate spiders. So if you've written a good spider story that I can read, then you've impressed yourself. You've impressed me. And Kowalski's artwork is really nice. I'm really digging this book. It'll be really interesting because the next issue is the last issue of this story. It'll be interesting to see how it all comes together. So, but definitely still worth checking out. But I really dig this book. It's a really good horror book. Next up, we have Red Zone number 4, written by Colin Bunn, with artwork by Mike Diodato Jr. First, I've really dug this. For me, this has been like the best quote unquote James Bond type story, spy story that I've read in quite a while. Much better than Dynamite's attempt on the Bond franchise. But what it is so Randall, who's a professor, and he was an agent before he became it's like an older version of James Bond. So he's been, somebody is from the Cold War era has been, like a head honcho has been hiring people to take him out. Just, bad blood over the years. And so him and Nika, end up at this kind of safe house, and he finds out that he's been sold out, and they all come to converge. All the people that have been hunting him converge, and him and Nika are trying to get out. And it's really a great ending to this story. I don't want to really give any more away. There's a nice little, kind of twist at the end with Nika. So that was nice to see. I really like this. Bunn really wrote a great, basically a great James Bond story, and it really is. And I like the fact that, it was just really good. Diodato Jr.'s artwork is always, really great. And it's really, really been a surprisingly great series. So with this being the final issue, definitely, you're probably going to have a tough time finding them. I know there'll be a trade of this soon, so definitely when that trade comes out, definitely pick this book up. I really, really enjoyed this. Next up, we had the Bone Orchard Mythos, Tenement number 1, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. So this is part of the Bone Orchard Mythos, and what this is, they're part of a kind of they're not necessarily connected stories, but they're kind of part of the same universe. That's the theory behind these books. But they do stand on their own. You don't need to read any of the previous ones. They just kind of inhabit kind of the same kind of universe. That's, I think, one of the best ways to describe it. So what this story is about, it's about this, apartment housing, or apartment building where there's 7 residents that we meet in this first issue that there's some sort of connection between them. We don't know what that connection is in this first issue, but we know that they all have something that is going to draw them together in this building. So it's really interesting. I like how Lemire sets it up. We get to we introduced to all the characters in this first. It's an oversized issue, so that's nice. So it gives it room to breathe for this first issue, which is really, really a plus. And once again, it's an oversized issue that's only $4, so it's kind of a deal. I really dig the setup here because once again it's kind of about normal people in the it appears that the in these unusual circumstances, so that'll be interesting. As always, Sorrentino's artwork is wonderful. I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire, and I pretty much buy every book. This is really good. I really like this first issue. It's very obviously exposition heavy, but it really sets the stage for this book. So definitely one of the best books I read this week, and really, really highly recommended. Next up, we have Cyborg #2, written by Morgan Hampton, with artwork by Tom Rainey and Valentine D. Landro. So this continues. Vic's father, Silas, has passed away, but apparently his memory and his conscious has been saved to a computer, and initially it's in this robot, and that's been created by this corporation Solus. And so Vic goes there to kind of try to find out what's going on, and he kind of gets bad vibes about this place. And then so what he does is he actually takes his father's essence out of him and stores it on his internal computer. And so he ultimately is trying to find out what's going on. I wasn't particularly overwhelmed with the first issue, but I think it had some good ideas. And once again, the second issue kind of had the same problem. Like, I think there's some good ideas here. I'm just not necessarily overwhelmed with the overall book. The story's okay. Like I said, I think it's got some interesting ideas. I just don't think it really moved as forward as much as I would have liked for a second issue. The artwork by Rainey and D. Landro is nice and everything, but it's just the story's kind of just okay. I think it's not bad. It's just kind of okay and just not really, once again, impressing me a lot. So I think this is probably going to be it for me on this. Next up, we have Wild's End #1, written by Dan Abnett. With artwork by INJ Culbert. So this book has been gone through a number of different publishers, and the basic premise is it's set in a world where animals are basically the humans in the story, and really the first series, which and I do recommend you go and try to find the previous series. The basic premise to all these stories is like War of the Worlds, that there's aliens that come and it's kind of that slow attack. So what this story is there's a ship, it's a fishing town, and so there's this kid, Eddie Kettle, who has been kind of a screw up almost all of his life, and his grandfather has a fishing boat. So his mom makes him go out, because he's screwed up his job, he screwed up everything. So she's hoping that this will kind of give him, set him straight, and so he can get his crap together. And so they're out on the fishing boat, and they haven't, the weird thing is they haven't been able to find any fish. They go back to the town, and everybody, there's nobody there. Like, it's like literally everybody disappeared. Like, everything's frozen in place, but there's nobody there. And once again, I've read the previous series, and this is really a good book. And you do not have to have read the previous series to read this one. It's standing on its own. It's its own story with these characters. I really love this book. I've been a big fan of this book for a long time, and it's well worth checking out. And definitely, this is a good place to kind of get into this. This wonderful universe that Abnett and Culbert has created. It's really a wonderful book. Great story, great artwork. Definitely check it out this week. Next up, we have The Incredible Hulk #1. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with artwork by Nick Klein. So this is a new creative team taking over the book, and basically what it is Johnson is turning it into a horror story, which is quite interesting. So what it is the Mother of Horrors has taking control of these people, and she's now hunting the Hulk because it's kind of like she wants him to be part of the gang. I guess is the simplest way to kind of explain it. And so, of course, there's the continuing internal conflict with the Hulk and Bruce Banner. And Bruce is basically like the loner, trying to go through life without having the Hulk tear the town apart. And but then these monsters are kind of after him. And it's really an interesting setup. I mean, that's the basic premise there. I really like this. I like the fact that that Johnson has turned it into a horror story, because it is kind of a horror story. It's basically Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And Klein's artwork's really nice. He really captures like the mood of like the horror of it, like of a horror story. I really this first issue was solid. It was a good setup. The good thing is there wasn't a lot of exposition, in the sense of everybody knows who the Hulk is. We all know the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. So really what Johnson was doing here was setting up, kind of the villains, or, the kind of the villain premise of this story. So definitely worth checking out this week. I really dug it. I like the Hulk. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Peter David's run, which is one of my favorite runs of all time. So we'll see if Johnson can get this one going. I like this first issue. Definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Nightwing 105, written by Tom Taylor, with artwork by Bruno Redondo. So on Taylor and Redondo's quest to do amazing Nightwing stories. Now, we've seen the one issue that was one continuous panel. That if you actually laid it all out, the story went through, was one giant panel. So this one is quite interesting. The entire issue is from Nightwing's point of view. You don't actually see Nightwing per se. You see him in the mirror, but you don't, it's like what you see every day. You generally don't see yourself unless you're looking in the mirror. So it's a story based on a day in the life of Dick Grayson, but it's from his point of view, which is absolutely brilliant. I got to give him, because once again, the story has always been great. I love Nightwing. It's been an absolutely amazing book. And Bruno is back. And this is just a great way for him to come back to do this book. After the last storyline that Travis Moore did, and Travis Moore was a great artist. I really like Travis's artwork, but Bruno's back, and this issue was really fun. This is one of my favorite books. I really look forward to it every month. I cannot recommend it enough. I really love this book. Next up, we have Kaya #9, written and drawn by Wes Craig. And my quest to continue to get you to buy this book. There's a trade of the first 5 issues. So what has been happening is Kaya, Jin, her brother, has been kidnapped. She was following him to rescue. She got scooped up by a giant bird. She's lost her arm. Her companions have been tracking Jin. And, Jin's supposedly like the next, king. He has theoretically special powers, which we're not sure whether he does or not. And the bad guys have basically kidnapped him to take him back. They don't know why. They've been told to kidnap him. That's the basic premise. I love this book to death. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a great all ages book. Craig is just knocking it out of the park with each issue. It's the only thing that I don't even want to say it's bad. It's just that I love this book so much. It's so hard waiting 30 days for the next chapter of this story. Every issue is just a treat. Like I said, I cannot recommend it enough. It's a great all ages book that you definitely, a lot of people are sleeping on, and it's a real shame. I love this book. Definitely pick this up. Like I said, there is a trade of the first 5 issues that'll get you going. It's just, you need to be buying this book. I cannot recommend it enough. Next up, we have Titans #2, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Nicholas Scott. So we have a couple things going on in this issue. First of all, Wally West has been killed But here's the interesting thing. He actually comes back, but not that he comes back to life. He's actually transported himself to the future. So there's kind of two. It's like if Future Flash just came back to see the dead Flash. So the question, and it's so Nightwing is trying to solve this murder mystery of how why Flash was killed. Also, there seems to be maybe a tie-in with what's going on in the world. There's this like giant forest fire that's been set off, and Dick thinks it has something to do with Wally's death. So he actually sends the rest of the team while staying with Wally to try to find out how he was murdered. And what's interesting is he puts Wonder Girl in charge of the thing, and she's never been the leader before. Donna, and she's kind of questioning herself. And then after the mission, Corey says, hey, you did a great job. I would follow you anywhere. You're a great leader. So it's really, I love the fact that Tom Taylor is really building on the legacy of Wolfman and Perez, which is smart. That has been a lot of problem with my feelings about Titans over the years, and many different people trying to take over. But it stands on its own. I think even if you haven't read the Wolfman and Perez, you just need to read them. But I don't think you certainly don't have to necessarily go out and read them before you read this. This stands on its own, but it builds on the legacy of what has previously gone before. And that's a smart move on Taylor's part. It's why I love him as a writer. Nicola Scott's artwork, I really love her to death. She's a great artist. She's a perfect artist for this book because, a lot of it is, there's the action and everything, but it's the emotions and her facial expressions are just perfect. Definitely check this book out. I love this book. Next up, Arcade Kings, number 2, written and drawn by Dylan Burnett. So what it is so Joe is looking for his brother, and so he's going to these like different towns to find him. But when he gets to the town, there's always some sort of something going on. So in this issue, he goes to Rockview. It's like this ghost town, and so he ends up he's challenged to a fight, and then the villain, which we think might be his father, is sending people out to get him to bring him back because he doesn't want to go back. He's looking for his brother, and so there's that kind of going on in the background. I really kind of dig this book. It's really wild. I like how that Burnett is kind of using like video games and kind of arcades as like kind of a action piece in here. I really just like this, and I like how he's building Joe as a character and kind of like building the story. I'm really kind of digging it, and I like Burnett's artwork too. It's still worth checking out. I like I said, I really the first issue was great. The second issue did what it needed to do, and it built on that first issue, which is always important. That's really a smart thing you need to do with that second issue. Next up, we have the Vigil number 2, written by Ram V, with artwork by Lalit Kumar Sharma. So this second issue, we get introduced to a new member of the team, Arclight, who basically has the power of like electricity, kind of like Electro in a way. And so what it is he's being sent to this like high security prison. And we find out that this prison has this kid who was experimented on and is able to control the weather. And so he busts him out, and we're kind of starting to see how all these pieces of this puzzle are fitting together, like how this team is being created to find these things. Like in the first issue, there was the tech on the boat. This issue, there's this kid who has these powers that probably is going to I'm assuming is going to become part of the team. So I like how Ram V is like building this team and this story. It's really quite interesting how it's being laid out. And once again, doing a nice job of building on the first issue, continuing the story, but kind of taking it up a notch. And the stuff with excuse me, Arclight was really, really good. I really, like I said, I'm digging this book. Ramfey is a really good writer, and I like what what he's doing here. It's kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of Suicide Squad-ish in a way, but that's not a bad thing. It's kind of a covert team, and I like it, and Sharma's artwork's nice. Definitely still worth checking out. And finally, this week we have Batman White Knight presents Generation Joker #2. Whew, that's a mouthful. With story by Sean Murphy. The script is by I'm sorry, Katna Collins and Clay McCormick, with artwork by Mirka and Dolfo. So once again, Jack Napier Joker. He's dead, but his essence is stored in like a computer, like an iPhone or something. And so the two kids that he's had with Harley, Bryce and Jackie, so he's taking them on this journey to kind of find, because he really wasn't a father, he's trying to become a father, but there's something else going on, like, how he died, why he died, why everybody hates him. So they're also running into other, of this White Knight universe villains. This one they run into the ventriloquist, and it's really interesting. I know a lot of the reviews have really been down on this book. I really kind of like it. I think it's kind of an interesting adventure, where it's not just entirely focused on like Batman, and I like that, and I think it's an interesting idea. It's kind of a side story in this universe. Once again, like I said with the first issue, I think you need to have at least read one of the White Knight series to kind of get who the players are in kind of about this, White Knight universe. But as long as you've read that, I think it's well worth checking out. It's definitely not something for people who have not read it. So definitely, the White Knight books have been really, really good. I've really enjoyed them, and I like this side story. It's something different, and that could be maybe why some reviews have not been kind to it. I like the fact that it's different. It's just not another Batman story, which easily they could have done, but I like how it's different, and I like that. So wow, that's it. We got through pretty good this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner is the owner, runs a great store. There's Annie, Eduardo, there's Wendy, there's Derek. It's a really great store, great customers. They have a great Facebook group where we post stuff. I post stuff, artwork and news and all sorts of stuff. They also do a Tuesday night unboxing. Sadly, Ryan's been sick as a dog this week. This cold is going around. One of my friends got it, and I had it obviously a couple weeks back. So it's really going around taking people down. But it's a great comic store. They offer discounts. They have a pull service, is great, so that way you don't miss anything. On the pull service, you get a discount on your books. He offers discounts on, trades and graphic novels and stuff every day. It's a really great store. It's a great comic store. That's the key. As always, make sure you support your local comic shop. Times are tough out there, especially trying to sell a $10 Ultimate books is really, that's a tough gig. But definitely support your local comic shop. They're really the backbone of the industry. And once again, they buy their books before you get them. So definitely make sure you pick up your books on a timely basis. And as always, we end our show with be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. Being kind doesn't cost anything. It's good for you. It's good for everyone else. I know times are tough out there, but being kind, is just, it really really helps your soul. And like I said, it's not hard, just say hi to people, open doors, smile, just be friendly, be good to each other out there. Times are tough. I get it. Being kind just is good for you. You'd be surprised how good it is for you. That's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comments are welcome. Thanks for all the comments. Comments have been really great, and thanks for the comment about the huge mistake I made last week with the miscredit. So thanks again for that. And that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week. As again, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.